Part 1. The Gathering. The night was unnaturally cold, the kind of chill that seemed to seep into the bones. 5 strangers stood at the edge of a forgotten bus stop, the faded letters of the timetable too weathered to read. The bus shelter was dilapidated, its roof sagging under the weight of years. No one spoke, but each had a reason to be there, cloaked in their own silence. Nina, a young woman clutching a duffel bag, kept glancing at her phone. It was dead, despite being fully charged hours ago. Next to her, an elderly man with a cane, Mr. Alden, hummed nervously, his watery eyes scanning the shadows. A teenage boy in a hoodie, Max, tapped his foot, avoiding eye contact. A middle-aged couple, Carla and Tom, whispered in hushed tones, their expressions strained. The headlights appeared before anyone heard the engine, cutting through the fog like twin suns. The bus pulled up with a screech, its metallic body impossibly clean and gleaming. The driver, an unnervingly still figure in a peaked cap, gestured silently. One by one they boarded. As the door shut behind them, a strange heaviness settled over the passengers. Something was wrong, but they couldn't quite place what. Part 2. The route unravels. The travelers sat far apart, each sensing an unspoken tension. The driver didn't announce a route, nor did the bus stop at any familiar landmarks. Outside the windows, a shifting landscape of endless fog stretched in all directions. "Where is this going?" Carla asked, breaking the silence. No one answered. Nina glanced at her reflection in the window and froze. The version of herself staring back wore a hospital gown, her eyes sunken and haunted. She blinked, and the reflection returned to normal, but her hands trembled as she gripped her bag tighter. A loud ding interrupted her thoughts. The bus halted abruptly, and the doors hissed open. A man in tattered clothing stumbled aboard, his face pale and gaunt. He scanned the passengers, his eyes hollow, before muttering, "Not again," and sitting in the farthest corner. The bus lurched forward, the air growing colder. Nina leaned toward Max and whispered, "Does this feel wrong to you?" Max nodded, his hoodie failing to conceal the fear in his eyes. The bus stopped again, this time at what appeared to be a playground. Rusty swings swayed gently, though no wind blew. Outside, a young girl stood, her face hidden by a cascade of dark hair. She was holding a teddy bear missing an eye. "That's impossible," Max murmured, his voice barely audible. "What is it?" Nina asked, but Max didn't answer. Instead, he bolted upright as if drawn by some unseen force. The driver didn't stop him, or the doors opened, and Max stepped out. As soon as his foot hit the ground, the bus door slammed shut, and it sped away, leaving him behind. "Wait, you can't just leave him," Nina shouted, but the driver ignored her. Through the fogged windows, she saw Max approach the girl, her head tilted unnaturally, and then they both disappeared into the mist. A low hum filled the bus, vibrating through the passengers. Carla clutched Tom's arm, her nails digging into his skin. "This isn't normal, we have to get off." But the driver's expressionless face, barely visible through the glass, remained unmoving. The bus seemed to gain speed, its windows darkening further. The next stop came too soon. The bus halted outside a suburban house, its warm light spilling onto the lawn. Carla gasped. "That's our house," she whispered. Tom tried to pull her back, but she was already on her feet. The bus doors hissed open, and she stumbled out, dragging Tom with her. As the couple approached the house, the scene shifted. The lights flickered, the lawn turned gray, and the house itself began to decay. Through the windows, they saw themselves sitting at the dining table arguing. Plates shattered, and voices rose. Then, Carla screamed as an older version of herself collapsed, clutching her chest. Tom reached out to her, but his image in the house walked away, leaving her gasping for air. "No, that's not how it happened," Tom shouted, but the vision dissolved into darkness. The couple vanished into the mist, leaving the remaining passengers in stunned silence. Nina turned to Mr. Alden. "We need to figure out what's happening before it's too late." Mr. Alden's hand trembled on his cane. "I think it already is." Only Nina, Mr. Alden, and the tattered man remained. The bus continued its journey, each moment more oppressive than the last. The tattered man suddenly spoke. "It doesn't end, the bus. It takes you where you don't want to go. It makes you face it." "What do you mean?" Nina demanded. He turned hollow eyes to her. "I've been on this bus before. Every time I try to escape, but it brings me back. You can't outrun your past." The bus stopped again, this time in front of an old cemetery. Mr. Alden paled. "No," he whispered. A lone grave stood illuminated by the bus's headlights. It bore his name. Shaking, he stumbled to the door. "I have to see," he muttered. Nina tried to stop him, but he was already outside. As he approached the grave, the earth split open, and skeletal hands dragged him into the ground. His cane fell, clattering onto the bus steps as the door slammed shut. Nina was alone now, except for the tattered man. "What's my stop?" she whispered. The bus slowed one last time. This stop was different. A desolate field bathed in crimson light. Outside stood a hospital bed surrounded by shadowy figures. Nina's legs felt like lead, but she knew she had to step off. The tattered man grabbed her arm. "You don't have to face it. Stay. Ride forever." She shook him off, stepping into the cold night air. The figures turned to face her, their eyes glowing. On the bed lay herself, hooked up to machines, pale and unmoving. Memories flooded back. The car crash. The guilt of leaving her family behind. The endless coma. "This is your stop," the driver said, his voice cold and final. Nina turned, tears streaming down her face. "What happens if I get back on?" "You'll ride forever," he replied. But the past was still followed. Taking a deep breath, she faced the bed, and the truth it held. As the bus drove away, she stood frozen, unsure if she was ready to wake, or to vanish into the mist forever. In the distance, the bus's headlights disappeared, carrying its next set of unwilling passengers toward their own forgotten stops.